they are the crutch for the hero. They're the, oh, you are the guy that already knows this stuff, or girl, and I'm learning it, but I'm still under your shadow. So, one of the things that killing the mentor character is for is the hero can't actually step into the limelight if they have a safety net that never allows them to take the real risk. If there's somebody always there that is going to save their bacon, they're not really risking anything. There's a difference between, walking a tightrope with a safety net and walking a tightrope without a safety net. And the stakes go up when we don't have that safety net. So that's one of the reasons why, that's one of the narrative prose reasons or purpose reasons, in my opinion, of why. Releasing your inner dragon. All right, Murray. We're episode 3 of our character trope archetype, whatever we want to call them. So we're going to talk about mentors. So why is there a mentor character in almost every single sci-fi fantasy that exists?
So there's 2 reasons. The first is that you have to have somebody who can slap the dumb farm boy upside the head and explain, no, this is how the world works. Because if you're going to be using a dumb farm boy who doesn't know how the world works, somebody needs to educate the reader about how this is going to pan out. So that's the first reason why there are many mentor characters. The second is that mentor characters allow the author to bring in a older, wiser, and different voice.
Mm-hmm.
So it allows the author to explore the world and the moral perspectives and the environment that the hero is in from somebody who has a a wiser view. It allows us is to show what the hero should be aiming for in terms of their thematic potential. It often serves as a mirror to provide a where the hero should be going.
Yeah. I'd add a few things to that. They are usually the thing that pushes the hero to change the most. They're the one that the hero is like, but I can't do it. And they're like, well, you're going to, because I'm gonna make you. A couple things I don't think a lot of people think about. They There's two things about them that I think are interesting. One, they're already in the world or the space or the occupation or the whatever that the actual protagonist is striving for. They're just at the end of it. So they're either too old or they're not powerful enough or whatever. There's some reason why they can't be the one to overcome this story, but they are what the hero is supposed to become. So they're kind of like that bridge
Mm.
between, like, here's your normal world, but I'm already there. I'm already where you want to be. I just can't do what you're going to do because of X. There's something preventing me. A lot of times it's age, but there's something preventing me. I mean, and I get it. Like, I'm not gonna slay dragons with my knees. Like, that's too much. Let some young whippersnapper go out there and do that. So that's kind of one of the things. Do you have anything to add to that, or?
So I would say that they are both the embodiment of what the hero is supposed to become, as you said, the embodiment of archetypical wisdom and the representation of the self's potential. The hero's potential, where the hero is supposed to end up, as well as the trigger for the hero's
Mhm.
transformation.
Mhm.
So the mentor catalyzes the hero's transformation by challenging them to overcome the errors, the challenges before them.
Yeah.
So
And that's
for,
up to the point. Sorry, go ahead.
so I mean, if you just look at a weird example of that, in The Lion King, there's that scene where Mufasa comes out of the stars and he's talking to Simba and he's telling him, remember who you are, right? That is a very clear catalyst of the mentor coming as the conscience of the hero and pushing the hero into actual action. It's a triggering activity.
Yeah. And that's on the one side, except for there is another side that most mentors also fill the role of, which is the cost of the path. Not only am I the mentor, the person that you're supposed to be, at the end of your road so that you can actually defeat this story that you've gotten involved in, but I'm going to also show you, and that's why so many mentors die, because I'm going to show you the cost of this path. And I'm willing to do that, which also teaches you, sacrifice, loyalty, morality, that you're willing to do whatever it takes for our side. And hopefully our side is the side of good or whatever. But that is another thing. It is that don't think this is all, fun and games, kid, because at the end of the day, you could die. And let me show you that by dying. So they are that side of it as well, which I think is
Yes.
very interesting from a storytelling standpoint. And I don't think people give it a lot of credit. Everybody just goes, oh, it's a mentor character. I'm not going to fall in love with it because it's going to die anyway. So who cares? I'm like, but that's the point. Like the whole point is that it is showing you the cost of this journey. So I just,
I think one of the interesting things that some authors, not many authors, but some authors have played with is writing the story from the mentor's perspective.
mhm,
So it hasn't been done often, but it has been done by people who have very long spanning series. So for example, the Abhorsen books by Garth Nix, you have Sabriel, who's in the first book, she is the hero character, right? But in her later books, she becomes a mentor to others like her. Their stories is told from her perspective, which is a very interesting journey. Ursula K. Le Guin did the same with Ged. In the beginning, he's, the kid
mhm,
at the school and so on and so forth. But in The Farthest Shore and in Tahanu, he is a mentor to other characters, and their
mhm.
stories is told through his mentorship of them.
Yeah. Yeah. It's harder to do it from the mentor. See, but both those, what you just pointed out was they started as the hero first.
Yeah.
And then we got to know them and love them and care for them. And then now we want to see more of them later in their lives. It's hard to like tell Star Wars A New Hope from Obi-Wan's perspective because the mentor normally doesn't actually get to do the thing. We're here to do a thing and you're going to die before we do the thing. So it's really hard to take your traditional mentor character and write the story from that perspective because they don't do it. They're not, you'd definitely be writing from a peripheral narrator perspective. But worse, if you're going to take advantage of the sacrifice, the cost of it, they're not even going to be around to see the
They're
fulfillment
not gonna,
of the
yeah.
thing.
Yes. So, I mean, yes, but like if you pulled off that end, if you pulled off the ending well, right? And even if it's a death side, it's a ends and death mentor arc. If you pulled off the ending well enough that you leave the reader with like the knowledge that because of this moment the hero will be successful, then that is the climax. you know. Or it can be. It can be the emotional climax where the mentor dies and gives the hero what they need to finish the
Yep.
story.
Yep.
And then the reader can finish it in their own head, you know. You go, off you go,
Oh
reader.
man. I think
Go imagine the ending.
right. I think that would really tick off a lot of readers. I think you'd have to switch POVs at that point.
I don't know. I think you can be like, I think the reader can imagine the ending at that point to be like, yes, it'll be glorious.
Yeah, that's one that I think you get more hate mail than anything. Um, and so the only thing I'm kind of concerned about with this topic is this is probably the one thing that I've done in my writing career that I'm most proud of, and I think I was most successful at, which was in. I'm going to try to dance around and be a little more vague here, but this is a much older book of mine, but I have a mentor character that is obviously a mentor character, but I run him as a protagonist.
Hmm.
And I got more email on that character and what happens to him than anyone else. I mean, like one of my best compliments. So the editor on that book was a guy named Patrick Labruto. He was Raymond Feist's first editor. He was Isaac Asimov's editor, Stephen King's editor, Louis L'Amour. I don't think he actually edited when Louis was alive, but he is the official editor or was for the Louis L'Amour Foundation. He's worked a billion different things.
Hmm.
Actually, the funny thing is, he says his claim to fame is he was the first American editor to reject The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy because he thought it was stupid and would never sell. And that was when he was working for one of the big houses, which I think is kind of funny. But when he read that scene, he actually, and like I said, I'm dancing around a little bit, but he was like, never has a writer caught me off guard. Never has a writer, I mean, he's like, I've been doing this for 50 years. I know where you're going with your story all the time. And he's like, I literally just sat there and was like, there's no way this is happening. There's no way. So, like, if I could take a man as I don't want to say jaded, but as invested in the industry as Labruto and shock him with him not being able to see what I was doing. Because to me, obviously, I'm using this character as a mentor character, but no one else saw it. No one else saw that he was just another protagonist and
Hmm.
a very important protagonist with a very, and that's the big reason is I gave him an amazingly strong quest that is personal to him, that he must accomplish, that like he is the protagonist of that story. And so I have all these threads that I added to his story. And when they're cut, it's massively painful to the readers. So that is one of my proudest characters, my moments of creating a character and creating a story. Because I went into that knowing that I was going to take the mentor trope and, turn it up on its head.
Hmm.
But he is just a mentor. I'm just, like I said, I just run him different and nobody sees it. Nobody knows it's coming. And I mean, my favorite piece of email that I ever got, fan mail I ever got, and I've told this before on the podcast, but the title of it was "You Owe Me a Personal Apology." And so when I was reading the email, she started off very pleasant. She was like, love your book, love your writing, blah blah blah. And then when she was done with that, she skipped a couple of lines and she wrote "but," and then she skipped a couple of lines and she's like, I was reading this book and I got to this scene and I was so distraught that I jumped up and screamed no at the top of my lungs. And then I realized I was at Starbucks and I was very embarrassed. And she's like, so I think you owe me a personal apology for embarrassing me. And so I wrote her back and I was like, first of all, it was never my intent to embarrass you in public. You know, that's definitely not something that I was planning on doing. And then I skipped a couple of lines and I wrote, but, and I skipped a couple of lines and I said, but I wrote a fictitious story with fictitious characters and did something bad to one of them fictitiously. And I did it so well, you made an ass out of yourself in public. Like you couldn't give me a bigger compliment than that. So, like, and it is a mentor character. I mean, that's literally what it is I took the mentor character trope and I just tried to do it in a way that no one, and I'm not going to say that there's not a single person out there because I haven't read everything. Maybe somebody else has done that, but I've never seen it
Mm,
done that way. So I'm very proud of that mentor character in that story. I think it really is a punch to the reader
yeah.
because you're invested in his quest, and his quest is massively important to you at that point. And so when it's cut, what do you do? How is that going to get faced? Sort of like what you were saying with the tell it from the mentor's character and then just pass on to the hero and end the book. It's like, no, no, we got to see. We've been working to kill the wizard. How are we going to? I don't want to imagine that. And so it does go on, and
Yeah.
somebody else does take up that mantle to finish his personal quest. So the reader does get satisfaction.
So in a way, so Kelsier from Mistborn was very much a mentor character that had, I mean, Kelsier was the prime mover behind
Yeah.
everything that happened in that book, including his own death, the effects that would have, and the net end result of the book. Right? Because
So yeah,
his death is what causes the scar to
right,
rise.
right.
Yeah.
And you are correct in a very close parallel. That was is one of the ones that's probably the closest to what I did.
Yeah.
The reason why I feel that's different is because Kelsier does accomplish his goal.
Yes.
He he
Kelsier.
sacrifices himself not to grow Ven,
Yeah.
but to actually win against the bad guy.
Yes.
So it's a very different death than like Obi-Wan's death, which
Yes.
is I'm gonna die to grow you, Luke. You need to grow.
What is fascinating about Kelsier, what's fascinating about Mistborn, is that the entire plot is laid out and executed by Kelsier,
Hmm.
including his own death.
Hmm. Yeah, he
His
plans that.
death was part of his equations. He
Hmm.
plans for it to be the case.
Yep.
And that's what
He knew
makes
there was
Mist
no other way.
yeah, that's what makes Kelsier as a mentor character so like because it is often a flaw of the mentor that they question themselves, right? We see that in Harry Potter as well with Dumbledore questioning himself, like,
Right.
you know, I'm throwing this boy onto the fire, basically, kind of thing. Um, there's often a sense of emotional distance from the mentors and so on. They often have this flawed morality or hidden regrets and so on. But
They also have that underlying bitterness that it should have been them.
yes,
Like they don't want to
Kelsier,
pants on the
yeah,
mantle.
yeah, they should have been them or whatever the case. Kelsier has none of that.
Yeah.
Kelsier has planned this whole thing. Like Vin is the protagonist, but Kelsier is the agent of the story.
Yeah.
Yeah, which makes him a very interesting mentor character.
Yeah. 100%. It's just different because of the fact
Yeah,
that he's not your traditional, what we
yeah.
would classify as a mentor character.
I mean, he does everything a mentor's supposed to do. He
Oh,
teaches
100%.
Vin, he does the education part.
100%.
Yeah,
And he does even do what I was just talking about, which is he is the cost. He
yeah,
does show Vin the cost. So
yeah,
I'm not saying he doesn't fit the role of the mentor character.
yeah.
I'm just saying that he is a protagonist and he does actually win something that without that win, the story would not have been defeated.
Mm,
And that's something a mentor character normally doesn't do. The mentor character normally just pushes the protagonist to that next
yeah.
level. So,
I think it is interesting to to utilize mentors in different capacities
mhm,
as well. Like what I like to do with my mentors is not just keep them as a character. I like to have characters step into and out of roles. And this is, I mean, it's especially easy for me in Sangville Chronicles, because in Chronicles, I have a multi-generational cast, right? So I have a grandmother, and I know nobody thinks of herself as a grandmother, but she is. um, I have Louis, and then I've got the kids as well, right?
Hmm.
And then I have Naira who comes in later, who's much older and has got a different kind of wisdom and knowledge that she brings in. And so Louis is a mentor to the kids, for example, you know, to the younger characters. And he is in turn mentored by herself, who sometimes is a mentor to Naira and sometimes is mentored by her. Right. So for me, it's always a fluid, fluctuating relationship thing because it depends on which character is interacting with which other character and treating it as a role, and not always as the whole of a character.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, there's so many, you don't have to be the trope when you're writing your story.
Yeah.
You don't have to just have the Obi-Wan Kenobi, I'm here to teach you the power, and then I'm going to die in front of you solely. And I mean, and this is going to get me a lot of hate. It's fine. But I really hate Obi-Wan's death. It it's just so damn worthless. It's like, oh look, Luke is watching me, so let me put my sword up and just die. And I get it. I understand how it plays out and all of that. So
Yeah.
don't send me any stupid hate. But to me, it's one of the weakest of the mentor deaths because he doesn't sacrifice. He just kind of gives up because he needs to. You take that versus Kelsier's death. I mean, Kelsier's death is he's and I think that's one of the things that makes a good mentor, I guess I should say. To me, a good mentor has their own arc, whatever that is. They're either wrestling with their own demons, their own regrets, like you said, they're fading relevance. They don't want to pass the mantle on. It should have been them, whatever. And I just don't feel that in A New Hope, Obi-Wan does that. He's much more of I'm just here to serve this role.
Yeah.
I'm not here because I have my own goals. I just have to be a mentor for you and die so that and
I
that's why I
think
think it's
I
weak.
think I guess I would say that what Lucas was trying for and didn't entirely pull off is that Obi-Wan is fight is he is okay. So this depends on how you see the ending of Star Wars, all right?
Yeah.
Because I see the ending of Star Wars where Luke chooses not to fight as him overcoming the dark side, which is more important than him beating the Emperor. By overcoming the dark side, by not yielding to violence, he he overcomes the lure of temptation and in doing so defeats the Emperor, even though he doesn't kill him. Okay, that is how I see the philosophical question.
Right.
Which means that when Obi-Wan puts up his sword and lets Darth Vader kill him, he is showing Luke the path of non-violence and the strength you can gain from it. But that depends entirely on whether you buy that philosophical premise.
Because to me, it's like, hey, so when you get to this point, remember, kick the can down the road to the next guy. Just give up and let him kill you and just let the next hero take over.
No, no,
I
that's
know, I'm
not.
picking. I'm picking. I'm picking.
But I will say that there is one other thing that you haven't mentioned that a mentor can do that works really well for mentorship, and that is what Jacqueline Carey did in Kashiel's Dart. So the mentor character there fails. He is absolutely he's in the prime of his life, he's doing his thing. He underestimates the villain. It's a political drama fantasy, right? He underestimates the villain. Completely underestimates what she's going to do. And he just dies. There is an attack and he didn't anticipate it, and he's dead. And the heroine is Phaedra is sold into slavery, and she's gone out of the kingdom and and you're like, wait, what just happened here? So you can also have the mentor actually be like a straight up like at the prime of their life doing their thing, and then they fail. And
Yeah.
now the hero has to figure out a way to beat what killed the mentor at the height of his power, which is, yeah, what the rest of the book is about.
Yeah. And that's one of those great examples of taking the mentor trope and kind of turning it on its side.
Yeah, yeah.
So let's talk about the classic types of mentors. So I've
Mm,
got five kind of types of mentors. So we talked about mentors that we're using in unique or more unique ways.
mm.
My guy, Kelsey, or I don't remember the name of that character.
Uh, Delaney. Yeah, his surname was, everybody called him Delaney. I can't
Mm,
remember what he's, Anafil Delaney.
mm. So what I've written down is we have the classic, sage. You're wise, you're powerful, you're cryptic, you're person that kind of withholds things because they feel that the hero's not ready or whatever. You're Gandalf's, you're Dumbledore's, your classic mentor
Yeah.
type character.
And
Um,
and almost inevitably the mistake they make will be not giving enough information, and that causes the hero to fail at some critical point. And I hate that trope.
yeah.
Anyway, sorry.
I mean, it's done a lot.
Yeah.
So anything that's done a lot starts to
Yeah.
become tiresome. You have the drill sergeant. So I use that in the Carnage of Karaz with
Mm.
Calzadon. He's the mentor character, but he's definitely the drill sergeant, kind of mentor character.
Why don't you
Um,
describe that a little bit? What does a drill sergeant do, and how are they different?
so abrasive, they might be broken, they might not, um, but they're a warrior and they feel like the only way to mentor is to push brutally. So, they're your drill sergeant,
Mm.
and that's what they are. They're the I'm going to push you until you almost break because it'll make you stronger. And even though where you almost break you think is past where you would break, it's not. And so I'm just going to be this hard hitting, brutal, you're going to do this because I'm going to push you until you do it. So any military movies will always have a drill sergeant kind of mentor character or whatever. Like I said, I used it in Carnage of Karaz with Calzadon.
So I use that kind of role herself is in that role, despite the fact that she doesn't look like a drill sergeant or act like a
Yeah,
drill sergeant, but she will push
yeah.
until you break.
I
Uh,
would put herself as in the drill sergeant role as I've defined it here.
yeah.
So yeah, and that's what I mean by it. They're just not a nice
Mm.
mentor. They're not here. They're here. They're not
They're
here.
not here to hold your hand.
Well, a lot of drill sergeant, in my opinion, the drill sergeant mentor, one of the things that defines it in my mind is you're not special. You're just one of. And if you fail, I will just push someone else to succeed because my job is to beat this story with a tool. And you're just a tool. You're not the prophesized one. You're not special. You're just the tool in front of me. And I'm gonna work you until you're the best tool you can be. So hopefully I can accomplish my goal, which is using you to defeat this story. So it's kind of that mentality. I'm not saying that's what they're doing, but I'm just saying they kind of have that mentality of
Yeah.
it. They know their role. Their role is to create a tool to use against the story.
Yeah.
You have the peer mentor. So like Samwise Gamgee or Dory from
Mm.
Finding Nemo. They're not necessarily older, they're not necessarily younger, they're not more powerful, they're not less powerful, but they still have that kind of moral anchor or that support role that still does the job of a mentor. I
Mm.
mean, it's so funny when I'm teaching and I say, yeah, who's the Obi-Wan Kenobi in Finding Nemo? Like Dory. The brainless fish is Obi-Wan Kenobi. That's literally what she is. She is that mentor character, but she's that peer mentor character.
Yes. And peer mentors are great because they really can step into and out of the role of mentorship. Like Dory isn't, some of the time, Dory is the mentor character. The rest of the time, she's either the comic relief or
Yeah.
the get you into trouble. like when she's following the light down into the freaking angler's
Yeah.
mouth and stuff like that.
Yeah. She's definitely the fool, the
Yeah.
one that's, and I meant the fool as in the fool trope,
Yes.
not,
Yeah.
I'm not
The fool,
calling
the
her a
trope.
fool.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, so, that's that thing that brings chaos to the story and all that. So she
Mm.
plays, and that's the other thing is so many people don't realize that characters can fill so many roles. I mean, in your story, I think the Niobe other woman is more like a peer mentorship
Yeah.
where it bounces back and forth between them, and they're both peer mentors to the other.
Yes.
But I think you could do the same thing with Dory and Marlin. I think
Yep.
Marlin is her mentor at certain times, and that's really what the peer mentor does. It's this. I'm not a traditional mentor, which means I'm not just going to mentor you this whole time. I am also still growing. I am also still learning. I also need to be pushed, and that's your role to me. And that's
Mm.
why it's a peer mentor. They're both mentors toward each other.
Yes.
You've got the unreliable or the dark mentor. In other words, they offer truths with strings attached. Not necessarily evil, but very complicated. They have their own designs.
So I swear. So I will give you an example of that, just of that exact type from George R. R. Martin, which is of course the assassin Jacques Hagar,
Hmm.
who teaches Arya and eventually tells her about the House of Black and White, and then she learns in there like all the assassin trays.
Hmm.
That's definitely a mentor with their own designs. But and I cannot for the life of me remember the name of the title, but I read a story years and years ago where the first book it was a duology, and the first book is a farm boy being taught by a mentor, and it's being taught magic, and it's all happiness and light and sunshine, and everything's normal, but slowly things get a little darker and darker. And the book basically, at the end of it, the farm boy realizes that, the mentor is the bad guy.
Yeah.
And then the second book is the fight against the mentor. I cannot remember who wrote it or what the title was, but it was years ago. I think I read it as a teenager. But it was
Well, when you went to Game of Thrones, I thought you were going to go to Lady. I'll butcher her name. What is it, Melisandre or something like that?
off the priest. I don't
Yes.
know.
She offers clarity and conviction.
Yes.
She does
He
fill that
does
leadership
teach.
role, but she is definitely a false guide.
Yes.
She leads Stannis and others
Okay.
into
Okay, wait.
horrifying
Let's
choices.
let's follow this. Let's follow that trail. All right.
All right.
What if she's not though? What if to defeat the others, you actually, because I think, like my personal opinion is the way that magic works in Martin's world, you have to sacrifice for it.
Yeah.
Okay. So the others are coming and they want to suck the life out of everyone. They want to turn the whole thing into winter.
Hmm.
So you have to sacrifice to stop them. Now, the first prince that was promised, according to the legends that Melisandre tells, sacrificed his beloved. He created a sword by quenching the blade in the heart and blood of his beloved.
Hmm.
And by doing so, he created the blade that drove back the darkness.
Hmm.
What if that's where you have to go? Like, is she a false guide?
Well, and again, I'm just talking about in Song of Ice and Fire. Like,
Yeah,
I mean, in the first book, the Game of
yeah,
Thrones. Like, she is 100% in that. Now, where it goes eventually, I don't know. You're right.
yeah.
It could be that she is the actual protagonist that's going to save the world. And none of us ever saw it.
Well,
But
no, no. She won't be the protagonist. She'll be the one telling the protagonist to plunge this dagger
right,
into the knife of your beloved so you can go kill the Night King.
right, right. But, the unreliable or the dark mentor is, you know, definitely a subclass of this mentor that I don't think a lot of people think about.
Yes.
So they're almost like a foil.
Yeah.
So they're on the hero side, but yeah, it's going to cost you. And then the last one I threw in there just to circle back around to Star Wars was the dead mentor. You know, the ghost,
Mufasa.
yeah, Mufasa, exactly. The dead mentor. I mean, you mentioned him earlier today, where he comes back from the grave to mentor. So yeah, those are the five. I mean, I just there's definitely more subtropes,
Yeah.
but that gives you some good examples of them. But what makes a good mentor, in your opinion? What does a mentor need to have to really fill that role?
So for me, a good mentor must have a lesson to teach, right? That's the first thing. Like, and I'm not just talking about the magic or a physical skill or whatever. A good mentor needs to have some kind of thematic lesson to teach, whether that is, the to be how to be wise or how to overcome the dark side or um, how to remember yourself and return to where you were born and reclaim your identity, like with the Lion King. Whatever that is, you need to have a lesson to, or Yoda in Star Wars, for example, who's another mentor character in Star Wars,
Yep.
who teaches Luke. Yes, he teaches him control of the Force, but he also teaches him mastery of the self when he
Yeah.
says to him, "Don't go, you're an idiot." And
Yeah.
then Luke goes and he's an idiot.
Yeah. Yeah. The number one thing on my list was has a philosophy.
Yes.
They believe in something deeply, and that belief shapes the hero.
Yeah.
They either believe they're on the right side, they believe the others are on the wrong side, they believe, you know, whatever. I mean,
Yeah.
you just went through several of them right there. But that's, I think, the number one thing that a mentor needs is a philosophy. The thing that they will not bend on. And then that is what shapes the hero, that guide, that rail that we put the hero on. I think that is very important. So yeah, 100% agree with that. We already talked about one of these because we were skipping ahead, but the embodies the cost. They're the ones that are going to suffer the loss. They're the ones that are going to whatever, because they know whether they know it or not, they can't actually overcome the story, because that would be weird if we follow this hero and then the mentor just pushes him aside and kills the wizard at the end, because that's never happened before. Star Wars. But the third thing I have is they cannot carry the character. They must push the character. They don't solve problems. They force the character to grow and solve those problems.
Yeah.
I think
So
that's
I
a
would,
big
yeah.
thing that makes a good mentor.
So for me, I would say that they must trigger the hero's growth,
Yeah.
not fix the hero's life.
Yes. And then the last thing I have on that list is, and we've already talked about this because we skipped ahead a little bit, but they have to have their own arc. They have to have something, in both in Roadhouse and in Blade, you have the old mentor character. But in both of those, they both still feel like they can do it, which is why in Roadhouse, he goes and gets in a fight and gets killed. And in Blade,
But
he goes off to fight the vampires and gets killed. Like they both still believe that they've got it in them, that they can be the hero, that they can do the overcome. So, but that gives them an arc. Even though their arc ends, they still are fighting that internal demon that's internal to them, that has nothing to do with the hero.
I think that one mentor that we must talk about is Morpheus from Matrix,
Mm, yeah.
because he is also a fascinatingly different mentor. He is a
Hmm.
true believer
Yeah.
of the hero. He's like a cheerleader of the hero. But
Yes.
at the
He's
same time,
almost a
he is
Mary
a mentor.
Sue.
Yeah.
He is as close to being a Mary Sue that you
Yeah.
can get without being annoying.
Yeah. But he is very much a mentor character. You know,
Hmm.
he mentors Neo into this new world. He takes him there. He triggers his growth. He pushes him. But he also like 100% is a true believer that Neo is the one.
Yeah. He worships him.
Yes.
He is below him.
Yeah.
That is
So
that is actually a really interesting take on that
yeah,
because I don't know of any other mentors that are below
me
that
either.
know that they're below that have found this hero and put him on a
Yeah.
pedestal above them. Because again, that gets so dangerously close to the Mary Sue character that if you accidentally step 1 millimeter over that line, everyone now hates that character. Like it goes from we love Morpheus to what a absolute sycophant, terrible character in just the blink of an eye.
But so what makes Morpheus as you say, a very interesting character is that he has no desire, in contrast to Blade and Roadhouse, he has
Right.
no desire to be the one. He knows he's not the one. This is not his path. His path is to find the one and to
Yep.
teach the one. And that
Yeah.
is his desire. That is his role, and he knows that. And
And
he's
that's the reason why at the end he
yeah,
can jump through the wall and attack the agent knowing that he's going to die because his story's already over in his
yeah,
mind. He and that's also awesome because his story's not over because it isn't until it he has to do that to trigger
the one.
Neo actually becoming the one. But he
Yeah.
doesn't know that at the time. He actually thinks I'm going to sacrifice myself for you to get away because you're the one and you'll do your thing later.
Mm.
Like he is not happy that Neo comes to rescue him.
Yeah.
Like this is not what you should have done. You should never have put yourself in this danger without realizing that that is actually his final mentorship moment.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's a great use of a mentor character.
Yeah. So it was a very unique approach to the mentor character,
Hmm. Hmm.
giving like essentially giving Jesus a mentor, you know, like
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
yeah, that's what you're doing.
Um, yeah, so those are the things that I think are important. Then there's more, but those are the big things that I had on my list for like these are the things that make a good mentor. Next question. When and why should you kill your mentor? And those are kind of two different questions. Like when should you kill your mentor and why should you kill your mentor? But we can kind of double up and do them at the same time.
So when and so in my opinion, you should kill your mentor character if the like with any death. I am a believer in deaths should serve a purpose. I am not
Yes.
a random killer of characters. If I kill a character, I have a purpose, I have a reason, you know, it serves the story. And I know there are writers who argue, yes, but war is terrible and people should die in war. And I hear you. I do. Mr. Tchaikovsky, whom I interviewed about this. I hear you. But I believe that character death should serve a purpose and
It's
not
the
be
reason,
because of
and man, you disagree on this, but it's the reason why I don't like Ned Stark's death.
but I do think Ned Stark's death serves
I know,
purpose. There are
I
many
know.
deaths. There are many deaths in that story that I feel do not serve a purpose. Like, and I will stand with you on that one. But Ned Stark's actually serves a purpose. But
Yeah, I
anyway,
know. That's why I
regardless.
said we
Yeah.
disagree on that one. But we've had that argument on this
Yeah.
show before.
So to me, they should die when they are going to be thematically impactful,
Yes.
right? So
That's
they're
the number
going
one
to
thing.
they're going to show the cost to the hero, or they're going to serve the purpose of being a catalyst for the hero. Like their death is catapults the hero into the next part of the story, or their death teaches the hero a critical thing. So if we think about all the ones we've spoken about, all the mentors we've spoken about, Obi-Wan's death, if you follow my thesis on it, Obi-Wan's death teaches Luke that choosing the path of non-violence, even if that kills you, can result in following the Jedi way, right? Um, the death of Anafil Delaney catapults Fedre in Kashil's Dot, catapults her into the next part of the story, and it triggers her growth from being his tool to being the hero of the story. Because now she no longer is just acting under his direction. He's gone. You know, she's left on her own. The the death of Calcia triggers the whole plot. You know, it triggers the end of the plot and kind of brings that thematic loop to a close of like, this is, you know, what you have to do in order to get the people behind you. So, yeah, that would be, I would say you kill the mentor when it's thematically impactful, when it's going to move the hero forward and preferably also move the plot forward.
Yeah. Yeah, that was my number one thing. You have to have a narrative purpose, whatever that is. One of the things is they are the crutch for the hero. They're the, oh, you are the guy that already knows this stuff or girl, and I'm learning it, but I'm still under your shadow. So, one of the things that killing the mentor character is for is the hero can't actually step into the limelight if they have a safety net that never allows them to take the real risk. If there's somebody always there that is going to save their bacon, they're not really risking anything. There's a difference between, walking a tightrope with a safety net and walking a tightrope without a safety net. And the stakes go up when we don't have that safety net. So that's one of the reasons why, that's one of the narrative prose reasons or purpose reasons, in my opinion, of why. But I also added, like, they are the emotional catalyst to push the hero into becoming what the mentor was. So if you're running a mentor that is in that, you know, like Blade, when I can't think of his character's name, the mentor's character name, the old dude.
I can
Uh,
see his face in my, he's got the
yeah,
long flowing
long
blonde
white.
locks.
That's why I thought of the mentor from Roadhouse and him, because I was always thinking, I don't think it's the same actor, but I was like, in my mind, I'm like, are they the same actor? Because, like, I'm pulling up the same face in both of them, because they're both tall, skinny, long, scraggly haired, white haired older men. Like, that's what
Hold
both
on.
of them were.
Whistler,
No,
Abraham Whistler.
Whistler,
Thank you,
Whistler.
internet.
That was it. But that is the emotional catalyst that pushes Blade from just kind of doing his thing, sort of, to being as committed as Whistler was. Like, it does force him to, and the same thing in Roadhouse. Patrick Swayze's character has to. That death is the thing, that emotional catalyst that pushes it. And then the only other thing I really had on this list was to not forget about timing, because timing matters. If you kill your mentor too soon, you could lose, its dramatic
Impact.
punch. If you do it too late, the hero has already kind of leaned on him for too long,
Mm.
and it could stunt their growth in certain ways.
I think that the critical lesson, like that and this is something that I actually read in David Eddings's books at one point, which I thought was it was a very funny line, but it really stuck with me. They were talking about like executing somebody for, corruption, whatever. And one of the guys said, if you execute them, you'll never be able to use them again. All that potential's just gone. But if you exile him and you need him again, you always know where to find him. And I was like, you know, that's a good point to make about characters in general. Sure, killing them can have a great impact. But if you kill a character, that's it. All their potential is gone. All of their future story potential, you've given it all up for this one moment. So you must make sure that this one moment has maximal impact on the reader because you are giving up on all the rest.
I mean, yes, but magic.
No, we both know that the
Both of us
only
run death
time
is
when
death,
magic
but
comes into play is when it is either like really part of the story or, habeas corpus. If I don't show you a body, it doesn't mean they're dead.
right.
Yeah.
Well, I'm listening right now because I bought it a long time ago and I never listened to it. But I'm listening to it's either called Norse or Norse Gods from Neil Gaiman.
Mm,
And sort of toward the beginning, and these are very telly, very omniscient, very,
mm.
whatever. I'm enjoying it. I'm actually having a good time with it. But toward the beginning, he said something like, "But as everyone knows, the gods, while they will die, doesn't mean they stay dead." Um,
Yeah.
and like one of the early stories on, they kill this god, and then in the story that I'm listening to now, which is really close to the end, it was like, and God X was there. Yes, he was dead, but now he's not, and that's all he did to explain it. And then he just kept going, and
That's the
it's
thing.
like,
Like when you're dealing with that kind of story, then you're like, yeah, but it doesn't like death is not the same.
yeah, yeah,
And
it
and but
takes all the
but then you
wind out
have
of it.
different stakes. Then you introduce it's like working with overpowered characters like
Yeah,
Superman and so on, as we've discussed before. You need different stakes at that point. Is the point.
yeah.
Yeah. So but yeah, so that would my take on a mentor character's death is that you do it when it has great impact on the hero and on the reader.
So just to go back to timing, because I wrote a note
Mm.
while you were talking. Look at how perfect the timing is of Morpheus's death, because his death is just he's captured. He doesn't die, but that is the mentor death. Is he's now captured by the enemy and he's going to be tortured to death and he's going to give up the secret and then they're going to kill him. So that is his death moment. But notice Neo has failed at everything. There is nothing Neo has succeeded at yet. He failed in kung fu, he failed in jumping, he failed in, the crowd scenes, he failed in everything. But look at how perfect that timing is because we're going to now, all of those were training exercises and he failed every single one of them. We're going to repeat every single one of those in the next part of this movie, but we're going to do it for real. So now the stakes are fail and die. And so it's still the perfect timing because every one of these now real world things, we are in the back of our mind going, yeah, but you already did this and you failed. And now failure means death. And so I think that was so brilliant to do the mentor death before Neo had actually succeeded in anything.
Yeah.
And especially right after the mid-act 2 climax with the Oracle telling him you're actually not the one. You are not the one. You are not Jesus Christ. You are going to fail at this. You are going to die at this. That's just the way this is. We're still going to be looking for the one after you're long dead and buried.
Yeah.
And so that was just breathtakingly brilliant timing because we know he knows how to do the things he needs to do. He knows that we know that he knows that he has the abilities to do what he needs to do. But up to this point, he's never succeeded at any of them. And so that was
And
just
now his
brilliant
mentor's
timing.
gone, and his goal is to get him back. Like,
Right,
which is not what his mentor wants either.
right, right. Well, and that's the reason why that mid-act 2 climax scene is one of my favorites of any stories
Yeah.
because the mid-act 2 climax is the thing that gives your hero what they need to move from a reactive character to a proactive character.
Yeah.
And if she had said, "Yeah, you're Jesus Christ," he's going to stay reactive at that point. He's not
Mm,
going to go after Morpheus because he's like, well, Morpheus has already served his purpose. He
mm,
found me. I don't want to put myself in danger because I haven't learned anything yet. I don't know how to be the one yet. So I can't go and put myself in danger saving him because he's now valueless because he found the one because I am the one. So by that mid-act two climax, giving him the you're not the one, that gives him the ability to go, yeah, I'm going to die doing this. I'm going to. However, I know I can save him. And he's the only thing that matters because he still hasn't finished his quest, which is to find the one. And so I have to save him. Otherwise, I have failed humanity.
yeah.
Like if I let him die, he doesn't find the one and we all die anyway. I'm worthless. And so that's why that is one of my most favorite mid-act two climaxes because it is 100% believable motivation to turn your character from reactive to proactive. I have to do this. And so, and then of course that line of, what do you need? Guns. Lots of
Tons of
guns.
guns.
It's just a chilling moment,
Great. That was
especially when you
that
see it for the
movie.
first time. Oh
That
my God,
movie was amazing.
that
Uh,
movie is the best. I'm so happy that they never made a sequel to it because they would have just ruined it.
Absolutely.
So there's been some smart moves. They never made a sequel to Highlander. I mean, there can only be one. They never made a sequel to The Matrix. Like, why would you mess with perfection?
For for the channel, for the Just in Time World Building channel, I actually went to rewatch Highlander 2. It's so bad.
See, you say that, and I don't understand what you mean. There was no Highlander 2. It,
What's
it didn't, that doesn't exist. There can be only one. And thank God there was only one.
the Oh, it was
One of my
so
favorite movies.
mm.
I haven't pulled it out in forever. I've had this for like 30 years sitting back here because I can't put it up anywhere. This is how much I love that movie.
Oh my goodness. Okay.
Some friends of mine gave this to me probably for my 21st birthday or something. I mean, I've had this for like 30 years.
Mm.
It just sits behind my credenza. It's one of my favorite movies.
It was a great movie. Highlander was a great movie.
Yes.
Um,
Yes.
yeah.
And like I said, if they had made a sequel to it, I think they would have heard it.
And
So,
also had an interesting mentor character because the mentor character had to die by the hand of at
yeah,
the
the
very,
Kurgan had to kill him.
yeah, yeah,
Well, there can be only one.
yes,
So if there's three of us left, me, my mentor, and the bad guy, and my mentor kills the bad guy, then
yeah.
I
Awkward
mean,
moment.
that's gonna be awkward. It's just gonna be a little weird because I'm gonna use everything you've taught me to try and kill you, but you have that statement
Awkward
of
moment.
remember, kid, I've taught you everything you know. I haven't taught you everything I know.
Yeah,
So
yeah, yeah.
it would be an awkward moment. Um, so
I
let's
guess,
talk about the. Oh, go ahead.
yeah, no.
I was gonna say let's talk about the dynamics between hero mentor and why it matters. Like, what are some things that we want to make sure we set up between the two?
So I think that one of the first things you want to establish is what in tying back to those types of mentors that you mentioned also informs the relationship,
Oh,
right?
100%. Yeah.
Because like a peer-to-peer mentorship relationship, you listen to what your friend says to you when you're talking in a place where they can offer wisdom and guidance. But that doesn't mean like you treat them like a mentor teacher that you look up to, right?
Right.
Whereas, say, like if the person is your boss or your professor or your parent or somebody like
Or
that,
the mage that has the power that you're hoping to get one day.
or the mate that has the power that you're hoping to get one day, or whatever the relationship, like it's a teaching relationship.
Right.
then the power dynamics of the relationship changes, obviously, and that changes the perspective of the mentee
Certainly.
and the mentor. Because at
Certainly.
that point, it's an unequal power dynamic
Right.
between the two.
Right. But what I have here, I think transcends that stuff because you're 100% right on, but that's the what the relationship is.
Yeah.
Um, so I'll just give you, we'll just go through these three things and we
Mm,
can chat about each one of them. So my first one is that you need tension to have growth. So basically, the best mentor mentee kind of pairs should clash. Respect doesn't mean agreement. Being
mm,
on the same side doesn't mean being a sycophant. So that's and I think that tension between would happen with any of these things that we have. Um, so like you were saying, the peer mentorship can still have that tension between them. They can still clash between each other. The teacher can still clash. All of these different things. So that's the thing that I was talking about that I think that some people miss. That they're like, oh, my mentor, he's the best at everything. So I'm going to listen to everything he said. And I'm never going to go against him because, but I mean, think about like, I mean, I don't know why this popped in my head. This is such a weird movie for us to be talking about, but the Karate Kid, when he gets all pissed off at Miyagi, when he's like, "You're just having me wash your car and clean your house and all of that." Did you lock up? Oh no, you didn't lock up. You were very still for a second. So, that was that tension, that was that clash where he's like, "You're not actually a mentor, you're just using me.
mm.
You're taking advantage of me." So, I think that's something to watch out for if you are trying to work on that mentor mentee relationship. Don't turn it into a sycophant relationship. Nobody wants to follow a hero that's a bootlicker.
Yeah, I agree.
Next thing that I had was you can do one of two things. You can either mirror the mentor can be a mirror. In other words, the mentor is what the hero will become, just a better version of it so that they can actually overcome the story.
Or a worse version of it.
Or they can be a contrast,
Yeah,
a warning of don't go down this path. This is the mistake that this person has made, is why they're a mentor and not the hero. So
yeah.
yeah, so mentor
So
versus contrast.
So I was just thinking of like the relationship between herself and Louis. Like Louis is very obedient in most things to herself, right? Because she's his liege, his mother, the whole works. And
Hmm.
until like the tension really like spins out between them. But she is also a warning of what happens if you don't put limits on yourself.
Yeah,
Yeah. So she is what he would become if he was not uh careful.
yeah, 100%. So that was the second thing. And again, I think any of those subtropes that we talked about can go either way. They can go with a mirror or with a contrast, the warning
Mm,
of that. Um, and then I think another kind of dynamic that matters in the mentor mentee relationship is the passing of a legacy. The hero needs to inherit something other than just the knowledge. They need to inherit a
yeah.
philosophy or an enemy or, you know, some type of wound. The inheritance needs to matter. And yeah, it can be less. It can be a weapon or the knowledge of magic or whatever, but those are more given. And so
Mm,
I do have those on the list, but I have those on these shouldn't be the only thing. Maybe they don't inherit magic, maybe they don't inherit a sword, then they're going to inherit one of the other things. But just because they inherit magic or sword doesn't mean that you shouldn't try to do something else. The philosophy, an enemy, a grievous wound mentally, something about that, something that's going to grow the character. So I think the inheritance, they need to inherit something that means something that matters to the story.
yes. Yeah. So, and I think like them inheriting like a philosophy or a wisdom or understanding or something
Yeah.
something important to the story helps. Like the mentor character is there, or the mentor role is there to impart wisdom to the hero in some way. So they must impart. Like,
Hmm. Yeah. I mean, just because my mind went to Mr. Miyagi for some crazy reason, because I haven't seen that movie probably since it came out. But like, not only do they have that clash, but he's teaching more than just karate. He's teaching more than just technique with his wax on, wax off. He's also teaching patience and restraint and dignity
yeah.
without actually saying, I'm going to teach you restraint. I'm going to teach you patience. I'm going to teach you dignity. But that is why he does the lessons and the way he does it, because he's actually given his mentee way more than just the martial arts training. And so when you look at the difference between how, the Cobra Kai taught, wait, or am I doing, did I just jump to G.I.
No,
Joe?
no, no, you're right. The Cobra Kai.
All right.
What they
Uh,
were called that.
yes, I thought so, but then I was like, oh crap, did I just stray into a different IP? Uh, we talk about a lot of IPs on this show. Um, so if you look at the contrast between them, they taught just karate.
Mm,
Like they taught that. And technically they also taught like discipline. Um, but Miyagi taught more than that. He taught the humanity side of it. And
mm.
so that's what I kind of am meaning by the inheritance of this. I have one more section,
Yeah,
but before we get into it, I want to ask you a completely different question.
sure.
You got a Kickstarter running right about now.
I do have a Kickstarter running right about now. My Kickstarter is called World Building Blueprints, and it is a an amazing book that you're going to love if you love building any kind of setting, but especially fantasy settings. There are over 50 templates in it. It's got a heaps of exercises. It's got guidance throughout to building magic, geography, fantasy elements, cultures. It's got a huge chapter on culture and a full model on how to implement cultures, a full model on how to implement an economy, and a chapter dedicated to building out that economy. So it'll take you from zero all the way through to hero, and you will be writing your story before you've even finished the book. So check it all out.
And it
Links
is a
below.
fantastic, because you've been working on that for over a year.
Yeah, 18 months.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it is a fantastic tool. You definitely should check it out. The links in below. And I actually have something as well.
Uh-huh.
Because I just dropped. A lot of people have heard me talk about my macros that I use, and I have all those macros that do all sorts of crazy things that help me edit so tightly the way I do. Well, I finally made a class on it, and it is up on Drake U, and you get the macro and everything else. And right now, through the end of August, 2025, so whenever you're watching this, if you use the code early bird macro, capital E, capital B, capital M, and I'll put it down below, you can actually get 25% off that class. So it's a class where I teach how to install them, how to use every single one of them, why I use each one of them, how I use each one of them, how to edit the macros, how to personalize the macros. And then I also go into some things about Word that I don't think most people think about, like how to customize the ribbon to make your workflow faster, how to better use the word replace feature and the custom dictionary feature, and a few things like that. So if you'd like to get that, we'll put that link down below as well. But it's early bird macro, 25% off of that.
Those
So,
macros are amazing. They are fantastic.
wow, you helped me write some of them. There were some that were so complicated that
I grant you, but I did make them better because you're not great at coding. I love you,
no,
but you can't code.
I'm not a coder.
But those macros are amazing. So
Yeah.
the concepts and ideas behind them are champion.
Yeah. I mean, I spent 15 years developing those slowly where I was like, oh, I got an idea. This macro would be good. Well, now that I've got that, what about this macro? Well, what about this? So yeah. So that's enough of
Yes,
us bragging about ourselves. But you guys should go get both of those.
It's not
All right.
selling out when you're, advertising your own products.
No, no. All right. So let's wrap this up. I've only
Yeah.
got one more thing on my list, unless you have some other things. I I wanted to talk about, I wanted to close this out with talking about the mentor is more than just an external character. In my opinion, a really good mentor is inside the hero by the end of the story. The hero needs to kind of adopt or inherit or become some of the things, like they fill the thing that the mentor failed at. They close that loop, or they do accomplish what the mentor was hoping that they would accomplish, and defeat the story, whatever. They they have those echo of lessons, so that we see that legacy of the teachings that are moving forward. It basically just, I think what's important to really remember about a mentor is that it is secular. Like, we've introduced this relationship. We take one of it away. I think it's important for the reader to know that comes to a close, that's going to continue, that the circle has been made. And so now future generations in this world, in this story, whatever, are still going to have access to this thing. Obviously not from the original, but
Yeah. I do also want to say that you don't have to necessarily kill your mentor at the moment where the character overcomes like, think of the mentor as something like, let's say the character learns what the mentor has to teach and then overcomes it,
mhm,
right? So the mentor doesn't always have to die. Sometimes the lesson is in the character beating the mentor. One of my favorite animes is Rurouni Kenshin. And in there, now obviously this is anime, but he returns to his swordsman's teacher to learn like the final technique of his sword skill. And he, his mentor doesn't tell him, but basically to learn the skill, you kill your mentor. Like, that's how it goes. But he doesn't, because of a variety of reasons, and he's got a special sword and blah blah blah. And then with this, and so the mentor's still left alive. And in the end, the mentor still plays a part, but he has overcome, he's learned what his mentor needs to teach him. The lesson is learned and absorbed. The mentor doesn't always have to die. That circle that you spoke of can sometimes be one where the student becomes the teacher.
yes. But I still think that's the closing that I'm talking about. It
Yeah.
still closes it for the audience. We get to see the legacy of that,
Mm,
as opposed to it just disappearing and meaning nothing.
yes.
So, and I kind of like your idea on the whole Obi-Wan Kenobi thing, because otherwise, like on my side of it, it just doesn't mean anything. Like, there's no closure to that.
So the reason why it doesn't mean anything to you is because I don't think that you think of it in terms of the Force. I think you think of it in terms of the hero. But to
Yeah,
me, like, the core essence of the Jedi is one of control and self-restraint, and only acting in violence when it will truly serve to protect others.
right.
And so and when you can do it without anger. And that's very hard. Being violent without anger is very hard, right? Um, and that's why Luke couldn't kill the Emperor, because he couldn't do it without anger. He could only not act.
Yeah. Well, I'm a huge MMA fan, and one of the funniest things about watching MMA is, when the fight is announced, the
Mm.
two fighters start going after each other. They start getting nasty and personal, and the insulting and all that. You have the press conferences where they're together, and sometimes, it either almost breaks on a fight, or maybe one of them does slap the other. They get into the ring, and they face off for the rules and the touching of the gloves, and they have, at this point, hate this other person because of the last 2 months of the lead up to this, and you've said this, and you've done this, and I am going to make you pay for all of this stuff. And then they spend 15 minutes just beating the crap out of each other. And then the bell rings. They're like, ah, oh, give me a hug, man. That was great. You're awesome. Love you. It's like, what? So they needed that anger, even if it wasn't really real. Now, some fighters really do detest each other, but
Yeah.
like when you get to the end and there's this love and respect, and after 15 minutes of just pounding each other in the face, that always makes me laugh.
It is
I
very,
always find that
very
funny.
hard to enact real violence without
Yeah,
any anger, without any hatred, without any. And see, that's why being a Jedi is hard, because you have to enact violence in protection of others
right.
without anger.
Yeah.
And if
Yeah, one
you
of my friends,
cannot do that, then you must not engage in the violence. And that is what Luke's lesson, in my opinion, is what Luke's lesson is.
one of my friends had never fought. Whatever, I boxed, I did all this stuff. And so one time he was like, let's put on the boxing gloves. I want you to teach me some things. Let's actually, spar. And I'm like, no, you don't want like this is not happening. So, not only am I not in any danger whatsoever, I'm also love the guy, and I'm not going to do anything to him, but it did create a very funny thing, because so he was wearing the headgear and all of that. I was only wearing the gloves, but he would always like so many people that don't know how to fight, he would just kind of attack in this wrong way, and I would yell Everlast because that's the name of the gear. And so there was an Everlast tag right on his forehead, and I would punch him in the forehead and whip his head back and knock him back. And then we'd start, he'd start coming in, and he'd do something stupid, and I'd go Everlast, and I'd punch him right in the patch, right on his forehead. And that went on for like 30 minutes before he finally was like, all right, I can't even get close to you. So we'll just stop. I don't know. It was very funny. Everlast. That was beautiful. Yeah. Ah, beating up your friends. Great memories.
But yeah, but that's kind of my point with like the full. So if you think of Star Wars not from the perspective of the hero beating the bad guy, but if you think of it in terms of the hero having to learn the lesson of how to be a Jedi, and that a
Yeah.
Jedi is about this restraint and control and not being angry when you use violence, then it frames it in a different light.
It does two things. First of all, it makes me go, yeah, I could never be a Jedi. And two, that's why there was only like three, because there's not a lot of people that can do that.
Yes, yes, it is. And that's why they were rare and why they
Yeah,
generally
I would
did
just be a Sith.
they well the Sith way is basically emotion, right?
Yeah.
Um so
And
so
fighting is pure emotion.
yeah,
I mean, like I said, I think that's why the MMA fighters have to work up to it and have to get in under each other's skin, so that they actually are emotionally convicted to hurt this person.
yeah.
And so,
And
yeah,
that's also what's interesting about like that's why the Jedi took children, right? Because you can't it's very hard to teach somebody not to react emotionally unless you catch them very young and you start educating them in this way and you start teaching them restraint and self-control and all of that like from the get-go.
you start blunting
Um,
their emotions.
yeah. Um, it makes like I have very geeky, nerdy friends, and we have sat late into the night over bottles of wine discussing, like, okay, but if the Sith is all about emotion, what if you use positive emotions like love and you follow that path as a Sith? Doesn't that make you better than a Jedi who's, all about this restraint? We've had massive discussions about which philosophy is actually better.
Yeah,
Like,
I can see that.
no.
Um, and just to put a pin in this last bit, because you were talking about doesn't have to die. I mean, Morpheus.
Yeah.
Morpheus is the great example of the mentor that doesn't die.
Yeah.
So
And
that's all I
Morpheus is
had
a
on my
great
list.
example. So yeah, I mean, you don't have to kill the mentor. It can be a full circle in a different way because at the end of the story, Neo has still grown to beyond the point where he was with Morpheus, right?
Oh
And
yeah,
that's the thing.
yeah. By the Had they made a second movie, by that point Neo would definitely be in charge and kind of be, above Morpheus in that way. I'm just glad they didn't, because I think they would have hurt the story if they had made a sequel to that. Let me live in my own, or
I
what
will.
it actually I'll take a line from that movie when Cypheus said, "I know when I put this steak in my mouth, I'm not actually eating steak. But you know what? Ignorance is bliss." So just let me be ignorant. They never made another Highlander. They never made another Matrix, and
My
they
my
never
idea,
made a Wheel of Time TV show.
my
Thank
idea
God.
for the mentor character who dies and sacrifices himself will be like that. You'll be like, perfect story. The hero goes on to overcome the end. We know that happens.
Yeah. There you go. Yeah. You started this off. I didn't realize where you were going. Yeah, you started off with I'm going to tell a story about a mentor character and then not actually give the end of it.
Yep.
There you go. The Matrix
Because that's
fits
what
the bill.
happens in the Matrix. You don't know. Like, you don't know at the
You
end of
just
it.
assume. Yeah,
You
because they never made a
assume.
second movie. So you just have to
Yeah.
kind of guess for yourself that,
Like, at the end of that movie, it ends on, like, I'm off to win.
yeah,
And that's where it ends.
yeah. I have no idea what's going to happen.
Exactly.
I just know,
And it's better that way.
oh, it is.
No ending that they could have come up with will match the one in your head,
No,
ever.
no. So, anything else about mentors?
I think that's a great note on which to end this episode. We will see you soon for another one.
Bye. If you are ready to take your writing to the next level and work with a group of highly motivated, dedicated writers who are all working to not only improve their writing, but improve your writing, plus you get to work with me on a weekly basis, then I'll encourage you to check out writersroom.us. This is a website that I have created that I really wish I had 30 years ago. It's everything a writer needs to become a better writer. Not only do we do weekly critique sessions, both from other members as well as me, we have daily writing sessions, I do monthly classes, Q&As, we have activities, I do all sorts of learning exercises, such as I do a quarterly writing prompt contest, and just tons and tons and tons of things. So if you're ready to get serious about your writing and you want to actually finish that novel and have a chance of it being published, then I encourage you to head on over to the Writer's Room and join me there. And as a special promotion for listeners of Releasing Your Inner Dragon, I'll go one step more. If you would like to get 50% off for 3 months, reach out to me. There's a million ways you can do that. You can do it through starvingwriterstudio.com, drakeu.com, any of my social medias such as LinkedIn, Instagram, Facebook, X, whatever. Reach out to me, say that you would like to check out the Writer's Room for 50% off, and I will send you a link that will allow you to do just that. So hopefully you're ready to start getting serious about writing, and I'll see you in the Writer's Room.
Thank you for tuning in. This is Marie Mullaney, your co-host on this literary adventure. Our goal is to provide you with valuable insights and discussions on writing. If you believe in our mission, please like and subscribe our podcast. Sharing our episodes with your community not only helps us grow, but also contributes to a richer, more diverse conversation about storytelling. We appreciate your support. For a deeper understanding of the topics we've discussed, head over to Just in Time Worlds on YouTube. It is a treasure trove where fantasy meets history and science. Every Tuesday, you'll find new videos that delve into the intricacies of world building, drawing from our rich real-world history. Whether you're a writer, a role player, or just a fantasy enthusiast, Just in Time Worlds offers unique insights that will enrich your perspective. Check it out and join the journey of crafting incredible worlds.